many years doing a lot of, and she's also a founder. Okay. So there are these folks who are going to now focus on the lady in yellow right now, and that is Shalini Prakash, someone that I must say that personally as well as professionally I have a lot of regard for. So, and Shalini, we definitely want to know more about your book, Clueless at 30. So much is happening out there, and you have worn so many hats. Your life journey is so interesting. So, without further ado, we are opening this up. Shalini, welcome. We are so grateful and thankful to you for taking this time out, and we are definitely looking forward to listening to your stories, listening to your anecdotes. Just to let you know, like 50 plus or 60 plus audience right now, startups, entrepreneurs, members of TIE, of course, a lot of them are there. And with this, over to you. So we want to keep this as a conversation. So first, the question is that a book takes a lot of effort and energy. With all that you do, how do you manage to do that? What was the thinking around it? And even for those who have not read the book, why should they read the book? Why should they buy the book? So over to you, and then I'll go to sleep because I'm sure you'll answer it very, very beautifully.
In
Thank you,
the
Shalini.
startup language, it feels like I need, like a pitch. Why should people buy my book? It sounds like a
Why
startup
not?
pitch.
Why not? Come on, why not? Why not? Go for it, boss.
Uh, so, so thank you so much, Vijayata. I think this is the best audience for me to speak to, because the book actually stems from a lot of entrepreneurial and VC anecdotes and examples in the book itself. So this is a good audience to talk to and engage with. And so just to give you a quick background on why I went about to write the book, right? I mean, what really inspired me to write the book. So just going a little bit, 15 years back, flashback. So I come from a South Indian family. I always knew I was going to do engineering. Okay. And probably I knew that when I was 10 years old, engineering or medicine, one of these two professions. And I did that, and I got into a top tier college in Bangalore. I studied RVC, and I thought I'm sorted for life, right? I mean, I followed the blueprint for life, and I thought I've arrived, and this is it, right? Life sorted. And college was great, made some good friends. Everything was going fine. Everybody's figuring out their life path, especially in the final year, right? I mean, most engineers can relate to it. Your friends are figuring out, they want to do GMAT or GRE, which was very popular back then, moving moving out of India to study and so on. And I was one of them. And then I felt like, I had this pressure of, I have to also figure out what is it that, that I need to do, because I need to figure out what to do after college. And but I decided, because I didn't know what I really wanted to study, I decided that I'm just going to continue doing my continue living in Bangalore, working with the corporate. And I got into a good MNC, which is Fidelity Investments. I started my career there. And when I was there, I was really not finding myself there. I didn't really fit into the corporate life and so on. And that sort of continued, that feeling sort of continued for a very long time, because I was like, oh my God, I thought I did everything right. And I'm supposed to be like, enjoying this moment that I've really arrived in life, right? I mean, I got into good college, I'm working, everything seems fine. But then yet something is missing. And I moved into different careers, changed my jobs, worked with different communities, really trying to find myself in a particular role or in a particular job that would really define me. And that didn't happen. So in my late 20s, what I did was I said, okay, I'm gonna go figure out, right? And I started having conversations with people. And every time I would talk to people, they would tell me, yeah, you're so smart, you have all the resources, you just need to know what you're passionate about, and then life is sorted for you, right? I mean, every other person told me that. But then I was like, but I don't know what's my passion. I don't know what I'm really good at, and what's the life that I need to be pursuing. But then everybody said, no, you gotta go through these programs and so on. And that's what I did. So I signed up for a lot of these programs online, Tony Robbins, to a lot of TED Talks, to reading a lot of books, right? And even if you look at books like Ikigai, right? Everybody is saying, once you know why you should know your meaning of life, and how that will really unleash your potential. And we know the passion, and then if it's giving you resource, at the center of it lies your Ikigai, and all these books telling you all these things. But then I was feeling really stifled, but I was thinking, I don't know what's my purpose of life. So how do I move forward, right? How do I unleash my real potential? So that frustration becomes more. It feels like, oh my God, like everybody around you is like totally killing it. You have your friends coming in these top lists, and then some of them are like moving up the ladder, and you think, oh, you had it all, and you're like still stifled. And actually nothing was wrong with what I had, right? I mean, I was in venture capital. I was in a big position. Everything was great, but then yet something felt like something was missing. So once I went through all these programs and all of that, right, and this was a journey for 3-4 years, I started feeling like nobody is actually talking about the people who are really messed up and clueless, right? I mean, they don't know what's their starting point. Everybody is talking about why you should be, finding out your ikigai and so on, but nobody is saying what's the first step towards doing that. And on the outside, for someone like me, like everyone's like, oh, she's so sorted, she's got it all. But then, there are so many things, so many emotions and anxieties that every person goes through, irrespective of what background or what they've accomplished in the past, right? So yeah, so this book really inspired me to actually capture all those things, not just from my perspective, also from person who's going to college to someone who's just starting off their corporate career or even their entrepreneurial journey, right? Everybody has their insecurities, everybody feels vulnerable, and they have their anxieties of their own, and they're fighting their own battles in their head or in their lives, right? So yeah, Clueless at 30 for me is just a light millennial, a take on millennials' prevailing anxieties and fears, and how screwed up we all are. And I don't know how much hope is there, but yeah, here we are.
Alrighty, fantastic. But Shalini, I have interacted with you before. You come across very confident, very sorted, and very lucid in everything that you say. And I think that showcases the fact that all this work that you did, all these courses that you took, maybe you didn't realize it then, but it's all coming together. It's all good, right? It's all wonderful. So fantastic. So now, Shalini, we are going to turn to Rupa Doroswamy, a wonderful person to most. Okay, I mean, whatever that means. I don't know why I said that. It got your attention at least. Rupa, you got to unmute yourself. And now your questions for Shalini. So Shalini, this is a very unique kind of thought process that we had, because Lakshmi and Vinay, of course, are from Thai. And we keep talking to so many entrepreneurs all the time. That's what we are all about, the community, right? So they have some questions for you. But of course, we would love to give the next privilege to Rupa. Rupa, over to you. Ask her all the tough questions that we had discussed about. By the way.
See, the problem with my situation is I know Shalini too well. And when I started reading, I mean, I've tried to read, Shalini, obviously I was there at your book launch at BIS earlier. I've listened to other conversations with you, and I'm very proud of you for doing what you're doing. But every time I mean, obviously I've read your book. I'm a nonfiction reader, so I pick it up and I read it. And every time I'm like, oh my God, how did she get into my head? Okay, so this has been an issue. And I'm like, why didn't somebody write this several years ago? And this book kind of says, okay, we're all normal. I mean, even you say you are from the privileged background, you have everything, you have a millennial, you've got it all right, but then still something is not right. Right. And I think that is a topic that a lot of people don't talk about. Right. So every time, it's about how, this particular aspect is never spoken about. So I'm very happy that you put it out there. The innermost thoughts out there. And, so how was that journey? Because I've hung out with you, but I never realized that while I was hanging out with you, you were going through this journey of literally micro, vomiting. Every inch of your brain that seems to be a part of a lot of our brains, it's amazing. So what was going through when you were putting this down? And I know that as the book grows, as the book gets to next, you also give us solutions. So this is not just I'm clueless, but also I was clueless, and maybe this is the way. I mean, I know we all haven't figured it out. We will figure it out. And I'm thinking this is all. It's not just clueless at 30, right? You kind of go through this journey again and again in your life. Okay, just by being a little bit more senior in life than you, I realized this book is as much useful to me as a 30-year-old, right? Or so it's a journey that maybe it starts at 30, but that pranaya goes, that journey goes back. You go back and back into that situation. That's the part about, kind of reinventing yourself. And this is a great pathway to, one of those books where you can kind of rely upon and say, okay, this is one path that one can take to get back into steady state. So thank you for that. And just let me know. So what was going through your brain when you were dealing with the rest of your life, but reading the book? Because I had not read the book till it came out, as you know that, although I was hanging out with you.
So I think one of the things that that's, why we go through all of this itself is because, this paradox of choice, right? I mean, there is so much out there that we are crippled to even make a decision. It's not about not knowing what to do. I think we all suffer from this, grass is greener on the other side syndrome, and which sort of really cripples us. It's not just when it comes to career, like even if you look at millennials and marriage, right? I mean, nobody wants to take a decision because, world's your oyster, unlike what it was in the past, where your parents would tell you what job you need to take or what degree you need to take, or, what girl you need to marry, who you need to marry, and so on, right? Now you can do anything you want. I think that has sort of really crippled us, right? And I think I was no different. So I went through those emotions in the sense that, when everybody tells you, hey, you can do anything you want to be, and all that. And I would look at my other cousins who are just like, doctors who are just doing like, morning to night, and they're so passionate about it. I was like, oh my God, I wish I could be that, Or I would look at my own brother who's in family business, and they're just doing this 9 to 6 or 9 to 7. And I'm like, oh my God, I wish I had something like that, which is very steady, right? I would always look for something steady. But, this choice, having so much choice itself, I think is what was paralyzing, because you could just be anything that you want to be. And unfortunately, for a very, very long time, I didn't see that as a good thing. I didn't see that as a opportunity where you can actually push the envelope to see what else is out there. I didn't see that as a way to follow my curiosity to learning new things and being new things, which is what I did later in my late 20s. When I was approaching 30. I was like, I'm just going to be a yes man, or like, I'm just going to say yes to everything. In fact, writing itself actually came as a product of that attitude and that line of thinking. I started writing because I just started, I started my career in venture capital, and then I wanted to start putting my thoughts out there and perspectives out there, which is very important for any investor to be out there sharing their views on, trends and so on. So I started writing. And then once I started writing, things started rolling, right? I mean, it's hard the first time, it's hard the second time, and third, fourth, fifth time, it gets easier. And then, of course, while there was appreciation where people started inviting me to write in a lot of their, their platforms, I was LinkedIn top voice. I never thought that, writing would give me something so rewarding. I mean, eventually, of course, I ended up writing a book as well, because all those small things that I did for 3-4 years sort of culminated into a book itself. So what was really going on in my mind when I was writing there is to say that, hey, we all got to take a chance at ourselves. It's okay to make a fool of yourself, and you have to be willing to be, make a mockery out of yourself itself. And it's fine. And there is no other way to do it, right? I mean, if you're feeling stuck, and then if you're always worried about what other people are going to judge you for, or what mistakes that you would make, there is nothing more you can do. You're going to be where you are, especially when you don't know what your passion is, and so on. So there are two types of passion, Rupa. There's something called harmonious passion, which is sort of a real extension of who you are. You breathe, like, very artists, right? I mean, they breathe their work, it's a part of their soul. And then there is the other, which is the obsessive passion, where people are made to sit in their job, think like family business guys, right? They are there and they start working, and they just get the high of, just doing their job so well. They don't care if it's their harmonious passion or not, but they do their so well. So what I did was I tried to find something which is in the middle, okay, which I coined my own term, which is called interactive passion. So where you start interacting with things that sort of ignite your curiosity, where you want to try new things and so on. So yeah, so these were my thoughts that was going on, which is which I've really put into the book. But then, when on the lighter note, when I was writing this book, I've tried to be as honest as possible, because it's very important to connect with your audience and so on, right? I mean, you need to be true to your true self in this book. I actually didn't think of it, what happens once the book comes out. I just kept telling myself, oh, I got to be very true and honest. And then the night before, I was like, oh my God, everyone's going to know the the real me and so on. So I went through that, of course, the night before, but, I have no complaints about it. I mean, at the end of the day, when we all write, we also want to, especially a nonfiction book, you want to make sure that it reaches the right hand, and, it's making a difference in their life in some way or the other. So, yeah. So while I had this excitement of writing, there was also a little bit of hesitation when actually the book was coming out with the story.
Nice. Yeah. So Vijay, I'll let others ask questions, then I can circle back with more.
Okay, boss.
Yeah.
Lakshmi, would you like to go in next? I know you have a couple of questions to ask and discuss with Shalini. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Vijeta. Hi, Shalini.
Hi,
So, my question to you will be, what will be your advice to the people who are back again, restarting their career after a long break, after a short break?
So I think when you're, first of all, if someone's restarting, I think that's great. I think the hardest thing to do is taking that first step, to reinventing yourself or trying something new. So that's amazing. I think where people who are trying to restart, the first thing I would say is, have an open mind. Don't start with preconceived notions on what you want to do. And also when you restart, give yourself that time, give yourself that room to play around a bit and engage with different people and try new things. Because once you have started something, you can't just quit and again take 4 steps back. So you might as well wait it out, give yourself some time, have conversations, go meet people, travel if you can, etc. So where you are sort of really opening the windows of your mind to different possibilities or new things that really excite you, and then take that plunge.
Great. And the second question from my side would be like, as you know, some people are successful at their workplace, and some they are really clueless. They are not unsuccessful in their life. So what will be your best and good advices to them?
So I think, first of all, I think success itself is very relative. I think, what might be, look like successful to the other person may not be successful for me. So it depends on what the measure of success is for that person. But what I say is very important is, while all of us are chasing success and leading this milestone-based life, right? I mean, all of us have milestones. What's important is we don't associate every milestone to your happiness, because a lot of us do that, make that mistake of associating success and happiness, because at the end of the day, success is not or happiness is not a end destination. It is a state of mind, and you need to embrace it. So, like, for example, a lot of us say, okay, I'm going to be very happy when I take or when I get this promotion, because, that's the sign of success for me. Or people would say, okay, I'm going to do a startup and be successful. Oh, I would achieve this and then I'll be successful and then I'll be happy. So I think while we are setting that milestones, because I think all of us have those, aspirations in terms of where we want to be. But I think what's important is you don't associate that with happiness, and then you try to be very pragmatic about how you view these milestones and not let it affect you. Because I think once we think that we will be happy when we reach that, and if it doesn't happen, we take it upon ourselves, and it's very, very hard. So it's important that we cut ourselves off as much as we can from what it does to our mind.
Hey, can I comment here? A question. So are you saying, I mean, this is excellent, whatever the answer is. So you're saying success could be an outward material journey and happiness is an inward journey?
Yeah. Very, 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 very nicely put, Rupa. That's what I mean. Because I think for the longest time, at least I did that. I thought, okay, if I, for example, I thought, if I'm in venture capital and then, people are writing about me and all of that, I thought, oh, that's a sign of success, right? Because the moment that you feel you've arrived, but then you realize that, oh, but this is not what I thought it would feel like. I didn't know this is what success feels like. I thought it's much more, right? And it didn't. And then you're thinking, okay, maybe if I do this, maybe, I'll feel that happiness more then. And then you actually reach that point and you'd be like, no, this is not done. And then you raise the bar higher. But I think as human nature, I think we are always raising the bar for ourselves, right? I think that's our nature, and we can't change that much, especially if we're aspirational. We're always doing that. We're challenging ourselves, which is fine. But then you'll realize that you're never happy, because you're finding happiness with your milestones and success. So I'm saying that you should try to disassociate with that as much as you can.
Nice.
Thank you, Shalini. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Vinay, over to you, sir. Your questions coming.
I think a lot of really good shares, insights, questions. You did mention in your book about the perfect opportunity, the search for the perfect opportunity, the career, job, life in general, right? And you also mentioned about the superhero's journey. But one thing I've been quite curious about, since you've been working at different places, traveling quite a bit, how do you decide whom you engage with? What kind of places do you go to? What kind of opportunities you pick up? What is your thought process in making choices?
I think so. I did just briefly mention the paradox of choice itself, right? How confusing it can be, as well as how much it can really paralyze you. But I think one of the things that I've spoken about in the book very strongly is I've spoken about something called MFD, which is mostly fine decision. So as entrepreneurs or as investors, one of the things that we are trained to do is we all, before making a decision or before making any executive decision, we are always weighing the pros and cons of things, right? And there is something called maximizers and satisfiers. Maximizers are where you're trying to maximize every outcome or every decision that you make because you want the most out of it. But when it comes to life, or when we're taking these decisions, I'm telling people that let's be a satisfier, where we're mostly looking at the mostly fine decision, the outcome that we will actually be okay with, right? Because sometimes you're putting so much emphasis on making that perfect decision that you don't take the decision at all. So instead, let's think about what is the outcome, or what is the worst that can happen if you take this decision, and can you live with that outcome, right? And if you can live with that outcome, just jump at it and try it. I think that's how I have sort of taken that decision. And sometimes it's worked, sometimes it's not worked. So I'm not saying that it's worked for me all the time or it works all the time. It doesn't. But I think that every choice that you made, but that you took it out of your instinct, or whatever measure that you had for yourself, and it's okay. But you have to be able to live with that consequence, and which is tough sometimes if it doesn't go the way you want. But I would say that don't put so much emphasis on having that perfect outcome, because sometimes you don't even know what is that perfect outcome you're looking for, right? It's very hard. So yeah, if live that MFD life, and you have to make that choice, which is make a mostly fine decision and keep moving forward.
Yeah, so just one more quick question. So when I was talking to your stories, Dr. Madan Mohan Rao, he says entrepreneurs do not read books as much, because they are more involved with watching, videos, and they want everything very quick and easy. And I see a question in the chat saying that I haven't read your book, but convince me why I should pick it up as an entrepreneur, in the sense as, how entrepreneurs can relate to the book in terms of the journey. And you have been in the entrepreneurship and the investor journey as well.
Yeah. So I think the book itself, especially for people who've read the book, they know like the part 2 especially is very entrepreneurship heavy, because I started talking about my journey in phase 2. Of course, we'll talk about the 4 phases in the book, but which is mostly centered around venture capital and entrepreneurship. Why an entrepreneur should pick this book, or how they would benefit, is especially in your early stages, this is very useful. Or if you're even considering doing a startup, it's beneficial, because basically I'm saying not everything is hunky-dory. Okay, there's a lot of shit that happens, and you go through a lot more than you actually imagine. It's not as glamorous as you envision, and but at the same time, what I'm saying is that you have to go through all those phases to see the brighter side of this, or the brighter end of this, for an entrepreneur. It is for example, pitching for the first time, or standing up and talking on stage for first time, to, people ghosting you, or having a lot of self-doubt. And so there are a lot of these emotions that really come out when you are in that phase of exploring a new opportunity, whether it's entrepreneurial or non-entrepreneurial. You do experience all of this. And I'm saying that while it looks great from the outside as an entrepreneur's life, there are a lot of these other baggages that you're carrying, sacrifices that you make, family, friends, and all of that. And it's okay. But I'm just saying that, this is what you go through, all of this. And even the most successful ones do, Yeah. So I capture a lot of that in the book, and that's what's helpful for an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think.
Sorry, Vinay. Sorry, continue.
No, I think it's very useful for entrepreneurs from what you shared in terms of going through the journey to reach the goal that you have in mind. Yeah, over to you, Vijay.
Yeah, thanks, Vinay. Shalini, there's one aspect that you talk about in your book called find your slash. Okay, So, I mean, the only slash that I do know, if anyone follows, heavy, heavy metal or rock or whatever, Slash is the guitarist of Guns N' Roses. So, but I'm sure that there must be something much more beyond that. So, what exactly is the meaning of Find Your Slash, Shalini?
So, in my late 20s, around the age of 30, when I was going through this identity crisis or existential crisis, I thought, okay, I am at least in such a great place. I'm meeting people. I'm out there. I'm traveling the world. My life is great. Imagine someone who's in a typical corporate job, like doing 9 to 5, how stifled and boxed or caged they must be feeling. Or probably they're as clueless and probably more lost than I am. And what I thought one day to myself is that, okay, I'm going to go form a community for people who are lost and who are clueless with their life. And it started off as a weekend project called Find Your Slash. So basically saying, if you're lost and clueless, just come and then we'll figure out. The central ethos of this platform itself was saying, when all of us are looking for passion, right? Like that one identity or that one career or that one direction for our life, we end up not doing anything because, we don't know if that's the one thing that, that we're supposed to be doing right now, because we're not sure and we're still waiting, right? We're waiting for passion to come knock at our door or, for some sign to tell us that this is our passion. So the community was formed to say that, hey, when you don't know what's that one thing that you want to do, why don't you be 20 things or 30 things? You can be as many avatars as you want to be, because all these different avatars are important for you to get that unique perspective. So, be an artist slash blogger slash entrepreneur slash any slash that you want to be, which excites you. It may not be your main avatar, it could be multiple avatars, and all these avatars will actually come together to give you that unique perspective. So for example, if you think about a wildlife photographer, to be very, very good at wildlife photography, you need to understand wildlife slash environment slash maybe zoology slash photography slash art slash tech, so many slashes, right? So when you don't know what you want to do, just go follow your curiosity, interact with all these small passions or interests that you have around you, and all of them will come together to make you the unique you when you figured out what it is. Even if it does not in your everyday work, or when you go for your interview or you go for higher education, all these small things will become a part of who you are. So that's what Find Your Slash is. Go create multiple avatars for yourself when you don't know what you want to do.
Fantastic. That's very nicely put, Shalini. Shalini, one more aspect, and this is something I think that would resonate with you as well. See, life is not that easy at times for entrepreneurs. There are a lot of challenges, and all the noise that is around in the ecosystem actually can pull you down when you're struggling to hire, raise funds, etc. And you have written this very clearly about the self-care part of it. Okay. So what are some of the, and it's a very important matter, because people do talk about mental anxiety and physical health deteriorating, family, friendships getting messed up because of the pressures of entrepreneurship. So if you have to give some thought processes, inputs, and maybe some of your own, practices, I think that would be very, very useful for the community, please.
So
It's about self-care, about the self-care part of it. How does an entrepreneur do that?
So, yeah. So I think in the beginning of the book itself, it's like a self-declaration that this is not a self-help book where I'm giving tips. And no, this has got no tips. And this book is mostly about self-care, where how can you care for yourself more when you're in this dilemma or the strange funk. So that's what this book is all about. So I think the caring is about really sort of shedding down all those inhibitions and those baggages that you're carrying on yourself, on your shoulder. For example, you're thinking that, oh my God, if this fails, my friends are gonna laugh at me, or I'm gonna be an utter failure. Maybe this was like the stupidest decision. I left this 7-figure salary or 8-figure salary to do this, and it didn't work and bombed. And we're self-doubting ourselves along the way and worried about the mistakes that we'll make and so on. So at the end of the day, nobody freaking cares, because everybody is worried in their or they're all wrapped up in their own shit. Like no one really cares about what you're going through, and maybe they'll give it attention for like 5 seconds, and people are going to move on. But the amount of emphasis or worry that we give to failure or everything that will sort of trickle down is not required. So basically that's exactly what I'm trying to say in the whole self-care space, that, saying that don't worry about what others are going to say or how this is going to look to others. Do what's right for you and to deal with it. And the first time you fail, second time you fail, third time you fail, it sort of becomes like a muscle memory, where you know how to quickly bounce back. It's the same in an entrepreneur's life, right? I mean, you're fundraising, not raising, it happens. People will ghost you in your fundraising process. Term sheet will come, but money doesn't come. Like 100 things that will go wrong, right? And this is a part of the game. This is a part of the journey itself, and you have to keep bouncing back and you have to keep moving forward. And there are no two ways to this. So yeah, so those are some aspects that I've kept, especially when you're starting off, I think, which is much more tougher because things are new to you. You don't know how to deal with all these anxieties and new emotions that are, or new situations that are thrown at you. So it is mostly for those people, the self-care, when I'm talking about self-care in the book itself.
Perfect, Shalini. Thank you very much. Shalini is a very interesting aspect that has been come in. If you see your chat, I just read it out for you. There is a gentleman by the name of Amit Das, who said that he's also just turned 30 right before the pandemic. That was maybe a couple of years back. And the question that he has asked is, what is a point that you would know when to take a pause and settle on one of the many passions and hobbies you have picked up? So we can even ask, if possible, Amit can unmute himself, or is this a question for you, Shalini?
Well, yeah, certainly. Thanks a lot, Vijeta. I actually just wanted to add a little to it because, there are times when you explore yourself after 30, especially, that you feel that, you feel you can do pretty much anything, right? Because that belief that 30s are the new 20s actually sticks to you. And you think you can fly too close to the sun, but you still don't want to take a chance because you still had the experiences a 20-year-old hasn't. So when do you know when you can take a step back, look at what you have achieved, and revel in it instead of just going on and on? That's pretty much what I wanted to ask.
So you mean, are you talking about career transitions or just taking a moment to savor everything that you've built or accomplished?
I mean, everything. It could be a career transition. It could be travel. It could be the way you have communicated with your family and friends. It can be anything.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of us, I think Rupa and I have also spoken so much about this, right? That we don't take a moment to really give a pat on your back, right? And it's very, very important, in the good, bad, ugly, anything that's come, but you've still sort of come a long way, and it's made you stronger. It's probably made you wiser, and despite all the goof ups and everything that's gone right or wrong, right? So I think I don't think there is any good time to be doing that. It doesn't mean even if it's in your 20s or 30s. But I think for me, how I would reward myself is I would just take up like solo traveling or travel on my own. And that's how I would reward myself, because one is, for me, travel gives me so much perspective about myself, and I learn a lot more about myself, and it is my way of celebrating. And I think it can be different for you, or it can be different for another person, but it's important to find yourself on how you're going to treat yourself, and it's important that you celebrate those small victories or small milestones that you've accomplished. And I don't think there's a right time to be doing it. I think it doesn't matter. You don't have to be 30 to be celebrating that, in my opinion.
So I want to add to that because I had the same question, and I didn't write it down. But so the question was kind of, thank you, Shalini, for that. But then I've been part of your Find Your Slash. I was one of your bakras, if I can use that word. I was part of your community. You had obviously a larger community, but in one of the sessions you had with your close friends, I was part, and I was going through the same shit at that point. I had too many slashes. And to answer, I think the question is now, at what point do you say enough is enough? I better get, focus on one slash, and take that and get deep into that. It could be, I think at some point you say, you can't keep 100 slashes for the next part of your life. At some point you have to start focusing. I don't think the intention is to say, just go out there and keep doing 100 things at a time, right? Because somebody has to bring home the bacon. somebody, you have to earn a livelihood, you have to do it right, you have to focus at some point, and you cannot focus on 100 things. Right? At some point, you have to make that choice and say, I am good at, at this, and I have this opportunity, and I'm also feeling happy, and I think I'm going to be successful at it. Right? At some point, the 100 slashes should become 10, should become 4. And if you're an entrepreneur, I think at some point, I believe, and you may disagree with this, but if you found a journey and an idea, maybe that's your chapter 4. It would be ideal for the last part of your book to be to a person to be at that journey by the time they find the idea and take it forward. Right. So then I think that success will come to you, because then you're not running behind something because you're missing out something. You are already, it's a good journey after that. So when do you say enough is enough? And Amit, right? Amit's question, follow on to that.
So I think you're completely right, especially if, in this fast-paced world, or as an entrepreneur, it's not possible for you to be doing 5-10 things at the same time all the time. I completely agree with that. I think what I mean is that not everybody is also at the liberty of quitting their jobs and pursuing whatever they want, right? I mean, as you said, people need to put food on the table, and so on. So the idea is to say, it could be your night avatar or your weekend avatars that you're honing, right? Or you're experimenting with and learning. So the idea is, let's not celebrate and focus only on our day avatar or night avatar, and let's build on weekend avatars as well. That's what I mean when you create these slashes. Now, even these slashes, when you create, it's not possible for you to be engaging with 4 or 5, right? I mean, you keep moving one after the other, yes, but at some point you need to dig deeper. So you will know what actually interests you and what you want to do. For me, that was writing. I was not a writer. I'm not a writer. But then for me, it was writing. Now, what happened is, at some point, whatever slashes that you're collecting, I see how a lot of it actually fits into my central story. Now, that's how I have become. I've also become a little strategic about it. But of course, when I started off, it wasn't a strategy per se. But then, when you start engaging in different things, you'll see, how is that actually helping me in my day-to-day life? Is that helping me, is that helping me unwind? Is that helping me, do better at my job? Or is that also helping me brand myself better at my organization? So now you can think about it in different ways. This is not about just doing multiple things for the sake of doing it. You do things that you enjoy, which is a true extension of who you are. That's your way to express yourself, or shed off all that energy, right? I mean, that's what I mean by slash. But then at some point, you can look at how that can become a part of your everyday life too, for you to keep taking it forward. Of course, you can't take all 4, but then whatever excites you more, you sort of take that forward.
Yeah, Amit, did that answer your question? I had to intervene.
Yeah. So when silence is there, one agrees.
He agrees. He agrees.
He agrees. And do you really think Rupa and Shalini say that he doesn't get it? Of course he got it. Come on, both of you are so good. Yeah. All right. So now,
no, because we've been having discussions for a long time. I've been doing this. Anyway.
Yeah, no problem. We'll come back to that. So, Shalini, the other input that we would love to understand from you, of course, because on behalf of all the entrepreneurs and founders here, getting out of your comfort zone is very easy to say it, but how does one plan it? How does it really know that this is my comfort zone? But if I really want to grow in life, or if I want to grow in my entrepreneurial journey, this is where I got to get it, and I have to move out from wherever, you have to do so many things. So is there a way to do this? Is there a practical mindset, or what do you think? What is your input on this?
So I think I'm very often asked saying, I want to quit my job. I have this idea that I want to work on, and so on, that I'm unable to get out of my comfort zone to do that. So I would, my first thinking or train of thought is saying, of course you can do it at your comfort zone. You don't have to quit your job to begin with. Not everybody quits their job to go build a startup on day one. So you can build it out to a certain degree, for 6 months or 8 months. For example, you can build your idea out first. You can do user testing, right? I mean, you can give it to your friends and family, get some feedback. You can tinker it. You can work on the weekends for it. Maybe it is a 6-month process. Maybe it's an 8-month process, right? So, but you go through it. But once you have enough data point to be saying that, yes, this is worth your time and this can become successful, then you can take that plunge. So that is the only way you can operate from your comfort zone to begin with. And once you have enough comfort that yes, you know that this is going to work. I know entrepreneurs who have also sort of built some bit of their product before they go, or they know that they have getting some traction for what they're building, and then they have quit. And it's totally fine. It's totally fine to be doing that today. So I would say, yeah, you can operate from your comfort zone. And once you get that comfort, because if it's not working, why the hell will you quit your job, right? And you move on. So yeah, I think that's one good way to test what if it's worth it.
Very nicely said, Shalini. Thank you so much. The other input that is coming in from our community, okay, is that, and this is something that will resonate with you as well. You have been progressing, you've seen ups, you've seen downs, and then, during your entrepreneurial journey as well, there'll be doubts in your mind. So how do you approach or get the right mentors and coaches? How do you know that whatever they're telling you does actually make sense? What is your way of kind of understanding it better and internalizing it?
So I think finding the right mentors is definitely useful, and it also depends on what phase you are in your life, right? Because you need to be in a place in life where you are actually able to imbibe or embrace a lot of what's been told to you. Because if you're not feeling the need, it doesn't happen. So you need to be in that frame of mind where you're actually willing to embrace what's been told or the learnings that are shared with you. There are two ways to look at it, right? I mean, one is where you go seek out a mentor because you think they have the right experience for you and so on. The other popular thing which I'm really leaning towards very recently is actually the mentor chooses you. Where of course, if somebody knows you, have seen you for a long time, and then you see the struggles of that person or what that person's doing, and then you really know you'll be able to add value to that person's life, and only then you go sort of mentor that person. So I think it's a two-way process. So one is, of course, if you know someone, you can seek out, but I think there is also this popular theory around how mentors choose you, and it's not the other way around.
Very nicely said, Shalini. They actually say this, isn't it? That when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So I think you have captured this very, very nicely. Thank you so much. Okay, there's also input kind of a conversation that I would like to get into this, that yes, as an entrepreneur, and you also have seen this, you have invested in a lot of startups as well, ambiguity, this black swan events that happen, and then the pandemic came in, etc., etc. So how does one really prepare to pivot or handle the stresses, pressures, and the kind of unforeseen future? We don't know, but we better know. So how does it work, Shalini? What would you say about that?
I think one way, I mean, first of all, there is no right way to do it, right? I think all of us need to come up with our own coping mechanism. So one way to think about this to say, you know what, everyone's going through the same shit. Everyone's in the same boat. Okay, so you're no exception, or you're not unique to this situation. And so either you take this up as a challenge with a lot of positive energy and being very optimistic about, crossing through this bridge, or you sulk about it and feel demotivated and, you're sort of pulling yourself down and go through this, right? I mean, so there is no other way to do this, right? Either you go this positive frame of mind, or you sulk about it and still go through with this. And more than anything, like I said, you can't fight the current situation. It is what it is. And all of us, I think, are trying to make the most use of what's available to us. And I think it also shows the true mark of any entrepreneur or any leader, right? I mean, standing up to the occasion, because a lot of, especially if you're a founder, there are a lot of people looking to you for advice or leaning towards you to show that direction and that path forward. So there is no room really to sort of let yourself down. So yeah, you got to do what you got to do and move forward.
Fantastic. Shalini, you also talk about trial and error. Okay. So now, what is the smarts that an entrepreneur has to have when they know that whatever the trial that they're doing is not really working too well? There is a problem, and they need to kind of figure this out for themselves. So is there some kind of parameters or metrics or thinking that you would advise the entrepreneur?
Listen to your customers. That's it, period. Right? I think a lot of people don't do enough user research before building a product. In fact, a lot of people go do research after building the product. So if you're building any product, say, for example, if you're building a consumer product, you need to know what time they, eat, sleep, what time they go to work, what is their average spend, and how much time do they spend on their phones, to every single thing about this person, right? You need to know their journey so well on an everyday basis before you build the product. And of course, after you build the product, you're again giving it out to them, right? To see how they're able to embrace, the product that you're giving, how they're able to use it. And there's a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of iteration that happens based on the feedback that you're getting. But what's important is listen to your customer. It's everybody thinks they're doing this. But sometimes when they're doing it after the product's built too. It's not before. So it's important that you listen to your customer. I would say that is the most important piece in your trial and error method.
Fantastic. Shalini, if you may ask you, you have been going, I think, physically as well. You've done a lot of these book sign-ups, etc. And you're interacting with people, entrepreneurs, startups, etc. Plus maybe fellow angel investors. So what are the conversations happening right now? What are people worried about? And also where are people seeing opportunity? What are the opportunities that you see, say, in the ecosystem of startups and entrepreneurs? If you'd like to share something.
I think, there are two things that people are worried about generally when you're talking in the VC or with entrepreneurial circles. Is one is hiring, which is a problem, which I think a lot of people are facing when they're trying to build a team and how to solve for it. That's the first thing. And the second thing that investors are also worried about is, the surplus cash in the ecosystem right now, and the valuation game changing a lot, and, really justifying valuations itself, right? For a lot of early founding teams and so on. I would say that these are a lot of conversations that we see. And the third one is, of course, there are a lot of these early bets. Several of us are taking around a Web 3.0. In terms of where it's going to go. Some of it might seem very early. Some of it might seem like very hazy because we don't know what is true, what is not true, and how many bets we can take around it and so on. So the reality of Web 3.0 is something that people are yet to embrace, and everyone's figuring out, even to due diligence, right? I mean, how much technology do you actually need to know to even do due diligence on a Web 3.0 company? So I would say, so these are a few common topics that you would hear.
Okay, fantastic, Shalini. Shalini, something else that we would love to hear from you for the the Bangalore ecosystem or the Karnataka ecosystem. You have seen so many other innovation clusters. You have traveled so much. You have involved yourself with so many other folks across the world, the VC world and the startup world. So what are the differences or best practices or some really nice things that you've seen in the other clusters or countries which you think that we should be knowing about or we should be remembering or following? If you don't mind, would love to hear that from you.
So when I used to work with 500 Startups, which is a Valley-based fund, so I used to travel a lot, back and forth. So one of the things that they say that Silicon Valley is being in Silicon Valley is only about having that mindset, right? It's the mindset that people are really drawn to. I think that mindset is something that I think it's far more better now and far more different now. But I would say that mindset itself is what's missing. Things like the paid forward mentality is so strong there, like very collaborative ecosystem where people are really helping each other. And even mentors or advisors, right? People who become a part of these accelerators or different programs itself, right? A lot of people are actually there with that paid forward mentality itself. So I think those are things that I think we are yet to catch up on. But I think we are there. I don't think it's very different. Like say what it was 5 years ago to now. I think we've come a long way. Especially if you're like in Bangalore and stuff. I don't think there's a cafe where people are not talking pitches and products and so on. But yeah, I think we are there. But I think in terms of one is of course the mindset of helping your peers to move forward, and the other thing itself is not really fearing that failure and so on, because there I think it's a lot more accepted. But I think we're all getting there. I think definitely we're all getting there. But yeah, I would say that these were the initial observations that was made.
Okay, thank you, Shalini. Shalini, a couple of weeks back, you had also come in when we had this EdTech roundtable special interest group conversation, etc. And there were students, there was academia, and of course there were founders as well. So apart from startups and the investor world, and of course other things that you do, and you have your friends, family, etc. What are your areas of interest which is linked to your work? How do you kind of find time? How do you compartmentalize yourself? And if you're an entrepreneur and wearing the entrepreneur hat, how do you think an entrepreneur should approach their startup and research work and networking? Because it's so important today to build your networks and to build your customer and you build your reputation. How would you do that?
I mean, I can't really comment too much for an entrepreneur's life, because I know that everybody is wearing like 5 different hats at any given time, right? So I understand that it's very, very hard to come with a regimented rule, place to work every day. But I would say what really matters is, I think, carve out that 30-40 minutes for yourself every single day. I think, also understanding that, hell's not going to break rules if you if you keep 30 minutes aside for yourself every day, whatever that is, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and find that meditative state for yourself. For some people it comes with reading, some people it comes with exercising, some people actually do meditation. So but find that state for yourself for every 30 minutes. I think it's very, very important to do that. And I think more than anything, for any successful person, I would say that this is my strong belief, is having the discipline is more important. Self-discipline is really important. So in terms of when you do your emails, to when you are spending time with your team, or with yourself, or with your family, or whatever that is, right? I think having that discipline is very, very important, as much as you can. I know it's very easy to say, but yeah, at least moving in that direction is very important.
Yeah, Vijana, there's one thing that a lot of people talk about is the, since Shalini mentioned paid forward and the Silicon Valley mindset. What is this mindset? What are the qualities one needs to build in, especially when you're early and young, when you're a student and aspiring entrepreneur? What kind of qualities can you build, and how do you build it? Is it primarily to traveling and meeting people, or are there other ways to do it?
I think, well, I mean, yes, traveling is one way to certainly do that, because there's so much that you learn along the way, cultures, to people, to behavior. People watching is my favorite activity. You learn so much about how people behave. But I think there are one or two other sides that I personally find exciting is, all of us should explore our creative pursuits at some point, because I think we all have forgotten the idea of play itself, right? I mean, or doing things with your hand. And when I talk about creative pursuits, it can be in so many different ways. It can be, of course, it can be art and whatever. It could be building things with your hands, to writing, to storytelling, to whatever, right? And all these things are also become integral part of leadership itself. When you're trying to hone your leadership qualities and so on. So I would say that creative pursuit is very important. I think a lot of us have probably missed out on it in our undergraduation or so on, because our education system itself doesn't allow a lot of these things. Unlike the West. So it's important that we create a little bit of that. The other thing that I've also spoken about in the book is I talk about building identity capital. Basically, it is, especially when you're young, if you're looking to take a plunge in the whole entrepreneurial ecosystem, it's important that you collect a lot of these experiences and learnings, when you're in college, when you're 18, right? I mean, just go do all the things outside of your classroom as well. And each identity that you actually collect sort of pays forward for itself. It could be a job interview or doing your own startup and so on. And so I would say, these two things. And I think I don't know if empathy is something that you can develop, but I think it's a very, very important quality for any strong leadership, or for any founder actually, to build a large organization. I think it's very, very important.
Thank you, Shalini. Thank you, Vinay. So we have a very nice question coming up for you, Shalini, very specific about your book. You'll see it on the chat. It's from Ram Ganesh. This is about, when did you decide that, okay, now you publish it? Okay. What are your sacrifices that you have to make, the writer's block, the total time spent to pen the book down, and when to stop, to decide now you publish. How do you like that? What you would like to say about that, Shalini?
So, so I was fortunate to get the book deal first. Okay. But of course, when I initially decided to write the book, I actually wrote a synopsis, and I of course wrote a few chapters around what the book is going to be, the look and feel, etc. And I was very hell-bent upon getting a particular publisher for my book because I thought they would appreciate the genre. I wrote the book. I wrote some parts of the book and I gave it to them, and the book got rejected. And they said, no, I don't think this is going to fly. There are too many things about your life. I don't know why people would care to read about your life. You're not like Ratan Tata or anyone, and so on. So it got rejected. And once it came back, of course, I changed the book. I changed the whole structure of it, and it's still a lot of me in the book, but it changed a lot. And so when I was talking to so some of my friends said, hey, why don't you go through these agents? I didn't know there were agents for this. They said, they will do all of this for you. Why are you running around doing this? So when I started talking to them, they started telling me, oh, why should somebody buy your book? How many copies will you be able to sell? How many this, that? And I was thinking, oh, I thought writing was like art, was like literature. I didn't really think about, oh, how many sales will I make, or what authority do I have in the subject matter? It didn't feel any different from going and pitching to an investor, where you're actually telling them to publish your book. The experience was so similar. It was not even funny. But of course, luckily I went back to my first choice itself, and I eventually got the book deal with them. And it's only after that I started writing the book, and and it is what it is today. But I think as I mentioned earlier, I think because I'm not looking at writing as a career for myself, it's important that you have that discipline itself to write, right? I mean, to write that chapter, because probably what we're reading today is the 7th version of the book itself, to be staying at it. And I also did my own small way of, user research, and it was pandemic time. People were happy to just read it and give me feedback because everyone was just sitting at home, and all of that helped. But I think what's important is, staying at it, because it is a creative process, and it takes time. I think I wrote the first version in about 3 months or 4 months. And then of course, over several periods of time, there were changes based on feedback that I was getting. I changed the structure of the book, etc. But what's the toughest thing in all of this is, I think, knowing what to write. I think once you know what you want to write, writing is easy. But knowing what you want to write, or what is the story you want to tell in each chapter, or even the book itself, right? What's the central theme of the book? What is the takeaway from the book? I think establishing that is the hardest. At least it was for me. So knowing what to write was the toughest. And I think once you know what it is, what you want to write about, I think it's easier.
Thank you very much, Shalini. And it's very candid of you to admit that the first time you submitted got rejected. That would have been like, oops, what happened? But wonderful. Vinay, I think you said that we have a raised hand from Bernie, right? I'm not too sure. Are you going to unmute them? They're coming in.
Yeah, Bernie, you can ask your question if you'd like to, or else we will move forward. Yeah. Yeah, I guess he's unable to unmute.
Yeah, no worries. So we are precisely at 4:00 now. And okay, Shalini, if we reverse this, okay, imagine that you are asking questions to yourself. Have you missed out something that is very important that was covered in the book, or something that you would want to talk about? And please tell us about it. Okay, so we may have missed a question. We try to do our best, but sometimes we miss out essential elements. So it's over to you, Shalini. If you have to answer a question that you just asked yourself, what would you like to say?
No, I think most of it was covered. I think so. I have a copy of the book here for people. Here, there's a copy of the book. Buy the book, and the book is very light. It's a quirky, it's a quirky book, and it's written to engage with, like Rupa was saying, with all age groups. It doesn't matter how old you are; you'll be able to relate to the book. The one thing that I'd like to add is the book is actually divided into 4 parts. It's called FOMO, SOBO, JOLO, and MOFO, saying that this is the this is the journey of any clueless person. So, that you have to go through this journey. So FOMO is a fear of missing out. SOBO is, you go in search of better options when you're struggling with all anxieties. And then from search of better options, I would say JOLO, which is the joy of letting go, letting go of all your inhibitions that is really holding you back. And MOFO is move forward. So these are the 4 phases in the book, and I think you'll enjoy it. Like I said, it's a right funny read about quarter life crisis and how we can move forward.
Thank you very much, Shalini. Very interesting one about moving forward also, right? Sometimes you got to not burn the bridges, but you have to move forward, get out of your comfort zone and do so many other things. Excellent. Great. Fantastic.